Welcome to the Millennovator podcast, episode number 20. Today we're interviewing Cam Duty, the founder of Bellhops. Just because you have over $25 million in financial backing does not mean that the hustle is dead.
It wasn't personal advice. It was from Paul Graham from Y Combinator, who said, you just have to do things that don't scale in the beginning.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
That's good.
You know, it's like the Airbnb story is, they went door to door and took pictures of the first 1,000 apartments that were listed on Airbnb.
You're listening to the Millennovator podcast, where we host the most innovative millennial entrepreneurs, and you learn the secret tips, proven tricks, and profitable tools they have picked up from entrepreneurial infancy to straight up business empire, and every stage in between. And now, your hosts and money Millennovators, Jonathan and Will.
Give me the right nine down, go right down. I'm trying to sit it nine down, go right down. You trying to get it nine down, go right down.
Good morning, Millennovators, or if you're like the Truman Show, good morning, good afternoon, and is it good afternoon and good night?
I think it's something like that. All I know is that took place, I'm not a Jim Carrey guy, but that took place in Seaside, Florida, and I love that town.
Yeah, me too. I go quite often, but
Yeah.
I'm from that area, so it
The
helps.
panhandle guy himself.
Yeah,
Fortunate for you. I mean, hey, I do have a mother that lives down there now.
yeah, so you had no excuse.
That's why I have friends,
No
actually.
excuse.
I have a mom that lives at the beach. Well, what's going on, peeps? I hope that you guys are doing well. We've got some really cool stuff in store for you today. Before we get to it, I just kind of want to ask Jonathan one thing. Jonathan, what's on the top of your Christmas list this year?
You know, my wife has been asking me the same question, and you get to a point, there's kind of ebbs and flows, in your shoe game.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wait, you sent me a screenshot of an ad that was placed. Okay, hold on.
Guys,
let's explain this
I
real
am
quick.
blown
because
away by Instagram ads.
Jonathan and I do not know Instagram ads. And let me preface this. This is December of 17. Hopefully by December of 18, we'll get the hang of Instagram ads. We're pretty good on Facebook ads. We can nail that down. But Instagram ads,
We're
new
not-
planet.
not
And I
so-
get they're the same business now. I get it all. But it's a totally different platform. Explain what happened there.
I take screenshots all the time and show them to Will because I'm so blown away. So Will and I, on our lunch break, we go to Chick-fil-A like normal people, and then we go to Nordstrom Rack, we just want to check out the shoes. So I go over there. I got some shoes eyeballed out for Christmas that I want my wife to get.
Good looking Chuckos, by the way.
Oh, yeah, they're nice. A little, what are they, Steve Madden, I think?
Those are nice shoes.
And, take a quick shot of them, send them over to my wife. Well, not a day or two later, does Instagram send me an ad with those exact shoes in every color they make, rotating. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
They were like, okay, we got the shoe model. We can't really tell the color, but we'll just throw them all at this cat. Like maybe he'll go for two of them, which in their defense, like you were in between two different colors. So
Yeah,
that's
no, three.
amazing.
They had three at the store. And I even said to Will, I was like, dude, which one of these three colors? It's amazing how they advertise.
Okay, so shoes are at the top of your list.
Shoes are
and
at the
maybe
top.
a course on Instagram advertising so we can get as boss as Nordstrom Rack.
Yeah, shout out to,
Whoever is doing their
Yeah,
Instagram, we'd love to learn from you.
but anyway, what about you, Will?
I am moving, hopefully closing on a home in the middle of December, right before Christmas. And I will be having our studio in that house, which is pretty sweet.
We're pretty excited about that.
Those of
actually.
you who want to talk about a side hustle and like turning an extra space in your house into a dedicated area, a sanctuary for that side hustle, that's what I'm doing. So I'm pretty jacked about the studio. I've got a new boom arm for our mic on the list.
What?
Possibly even a new mic on the list.
Yeah, I think we both have
Some
that.
box lighting. I would love a new laptop, but that's a $2,000 Christmas gift. That's
Man.
kind of outrageous.
Them dollars are racking up.
Yeah, we'll hold off into Q2 probably for that one of next year. But man, really and truly, everything on my list is going towards our side hustle.
Nice.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Well, speaking of side hustle, I want to transition and I want to ask Will a question now. Most of us listening, or most of you listening, I'm assuming probably have had a dream at one point in time. Now, whether you've made that dream a reality, that's up to you. But I want to ask Will here what dream he's had. So everyone's had a dream when they were a kid or they were young, teenager, young adult, that they've wanted to have some business idea to create. Some people put that and make that into fruition, and some people don't. But I want to ask Will, when you were younger,
Yeah.
what was your idea? What was your dream?
I'm not gonna go super young because I had some crazy ones, right? I'm gonna go college days.
College.
Probably like
Okay.
early. I think this was like
College now.
I think it's like sophomore year. Or junior year. I was living on 13th Street, man. Like that was like the street to live on, right? I had this idea that I thought was brilliant at the time. Keep in mind, this was for a project in my entrepreneurship class. You were supposed to come up with an idea, the logistics behind the whole idea, and then present it to the class. And ultimately, probably a few of those people went through with the idea. I was a wantrepreneur at the time. I was not an entrepreneur. I did not follow through with anything. The idea, though, was like okay, so get with me. Hear me out. I still get excited about talking about this idea.
He really does. He geeks out.
So a dog like health tracker, right? So this was in the time, this was like 2011 or 12. Fitbit was just getting huge, right? Well, people care about their bodies, but a lot of people care about their dog's bodies more than their own.
Which is hilarious.
If we're being honest, like
Yep.
they do. They love their dogs. They love what they consume, how the outtake of carbs. Like, well, when do they need to go get their shots updates, or when do they need to get their flea medicine or their diabetes or whatever, right? Like people love geeking out over their dogs. Why is there not like a Fitbit for dogs? That easy, right? I mean, pretty cool.
Yeah.
So came up with this awesome idea, had a killer marketing plan behind it. Great, like had some really cool partnerships to execute on, had some stores to get in, to get POs filled, that kind of stuff. Like really, really great project idea. It didn't go anywhere, right? Like I graduated, put it on the back of the burner, and here we are today.
Man.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm not
sorry.
finished yet.
Oh, my bad.
That idea has been seen to fruition by a guy who actually went to Yale. My brother-in-law went to Yale. That's why I said that like that. Like not like, ooh, you went to Yale. It's just kind of weird. You don't really know, like at least us down here in Alabama don't really know like tons of people who went to Yale.
Yeah.
But he started a company called Whistle, and they have like GPS pet trackers and activity monitors for your dog. And they're selling these things for like 80 to like $130 a pop. So I don't know how successful they are in getting and acquiring customers, but they saw the idea and brought it into fruition, and good for them.
That's crazy. I mean, I haven't had that for a business idea. I've had that for songs. I'm like, man, I should write a song about that. And then somebody writes a song about
But that song, yeah, exactly. What you just didn't do. It's the same principle.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And the reason I asked is because today we're interviewing Cam Duty from Bellhops. And like that and many others, probably many of you, he had an idea. Now, the idea at first was just that. It was an idea, right?
Yeah, like MVP straight up.
But
Checklist,
the difference
walkie-talkies.
between Cam and what Will just explained about his story is he just decided to make it happen. And like Will just said, notebooks, clipboards, yeah, and walkie-talkies, like from that to where they are today is just...
Oh, dude, incredible transition.
Yeah,
I mean, they started in 2011. They were like dorm room movers. I think he had branded it as like dorm room dudes or dorm room movers. I think he explains that in the
like
episode.
Their third name or something.
Yeah, he explains that in the episode. But basically, they were like pushing business cards, down like freshman moms' throats, and just like, hey guys, like here we are, like
orientation.
we're gonna help you guys move. We're gonna help you guys move. We're gonna help you guys move. They did that all summer long. August turns into August, and all those kids are coming back to move. Suddenly, they have like hundreds of people who are like, hey, I'm down. I want you to move me.
Over triple the amount of people they thought they were gonna have.
Yeah, and he was like, oh frick, like, I guess we got to get people to move them, and then he just took it one step at a time. Like, here's an obstacle, overcome it. Here's an obstacle, overcome it. And here they are today. He's got a headquarter with like, I think between 50 and 100 people. Don't quote me on that, in Chattanooga. And they've got thousands of bellhops, like as, 1099 contractors for the business throughout the nation.
Yeah, I'm really excited about y'all hearing today's interview because we talk about the hustle a lot and how you have to hustle, especially at the beginning.
But it never dies.
Yeah, and it doesn't. But Cam kind of puts it a pretty good perspective on how they got started. And I just think it's going to be very valuable for you to hear his story and how it relates to the hustle. So stay tuned today to listen to Cam's interview right now.
All right, guys, I'm sitting here across the desk with Jonathan, and I have got a special somebody, Mr. Cam Duty with Bellhops, on the line today. Actually, video conferencing in. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Kind of have to preface everything with the fact that we had our Christmas party last night, so might be at 95% today.
It's the holiday season. Nice, man. Well, we're happy you're here. You could be a lot of places other than here. sharing your entrepreneurial story, man, and inspiring those listening, but we appreciate that. So speaking on that, tell us kind of who you are and who Bellhops is as a business.
Sure. Yeah. Cam Duty. I started Bellhops with my co-founder in 2011, really. We've been on quite a ride. Kind of fast forward to today, we're about 6.5 or 7 years in. Bellhops is now a major competitor in the residential moving space with a kind of a first to industry model that's creating huge efficiencies and making moving experiences better and bringing the cost down, really through technology. I think we've been dubbed the Uber of moving, which I don't think is a perfect analogy, particularly in the fact that we're not on demand. People aren't waking up and saying, "Oh man, I need to move in 5 minutes." But the way our business operates is very similar in that we have a distributed workforce, and everything is managed and run through technology.
That's awesome, man.
And you guys are based out of Chattanooga now, is that correct?
We are.
So Cam, tell me a little bit about how you guys found it. I know that you were down at Auburn. How'd the whole idea come about, and was it really taken seriously at first?
I don't think anybody takes you seriously when you're first starting a company. It's a very lonely place to be honest, because even your best friends and family around you, everybody's skeptical, and they want what's best for you, and taking a risk like leaving your job and starting something from nothing, it doesn't make sense to anybody, and so it can be a lonely place. But we honestly started the business at Auburn as a way where we wanted to find something that was hyper seasonal and we could do on the side and kind of dip our toe in the entrepreneurship realm. It ended up kind of taking over our lives, and quickly the concept was what we thought was proved out early, and so we left our jobs and went in full time and raised money, and we've been on that path ever since.
And Cam, were you guys, so let me rewind a little bit more. Were you out of school kind of doing that seasonal thing with what was Bellhops at the time, or did you have a full-time gig and this was kind of like a side byproduct?
I had a full-time job. I was in medical equipment sales, and my co-founder was in commercial banking. We started the business in like December of 2010 with a ramp up to college move-in day. So the first company was actually called the Dorm Movers. And we
Nice.
And we kind of had this idea of allowing parents to have tea times when they pulled up, with their freshmen to move into the residential housing, to just have some athletic, able-bodied, bright-eyed, and bushy-tailed college students waiting at the curb for them to bring all their their stuff up to their dorm room. And so we weren't really movers at the time. We were more like bellhops. We were just kind of taking your stuff out of your car and shuffling it up to your room. That's kind of where the name came from.
It's funny, Cam. I remember being in school. I graduated from Alabama in 2013, I guess it was. You guys had kind of just moved into the life of Tuscaloosa and UA. I had several friends who were bellhops, like helping you guys launch on that side of things while you were kind of running that side. So perspective, that's really cool, right? I mean, on the front end of things, I kind of saw a lot of folks jumping on board and thinking, whoa, this is so sick. This is so cool, because it makes all the sense in the world, man. I mean, I'm moving into a house that we close on next Friday, actually, and my fiance is like, how are you going to move all this stuff? What are you going to do? And I'm like, I'll probably hire bellhops, one, but two, like, I've moved every year for the last 6 years of my life. As a college student, you do that. And even as a young professional, you just do that. You hop around and you need exactly what you're describing.
Well, so we started in the, serving college students, and we kind of most entrepreneurs do, you take on a real niche problem, and the market slapped you around a little bit until you realize that, you can start taking bigger chunks. But yeah, college students move very frequently, and it was kind of serendipitous that we started there because we're kind of moving up market with our original demographic, where now our largest customer base is the 25 to 35 demo. Young professionals are moving a lot. It's moving into a new apartment. You're changing cities. You're changing jobs. It's a very mobile time in your life, and it's definitely the time in your life where you're moving most frequently. We're, being a tech forward solution in a pretty dark industry with pretty negative stigma, bad reputation. We're coming in and making something really simple and easy with a completely different feel and a completely different experience, where you've got the types of people that you want in your home. Moving is a very intimate situation. It's
Right.
like, it's not food delivery. It's not a transactional experience. Having people coming into your home and interacting with you and your families for hours it's a big deal. I mean, you're stressed out. You're emotional. And so we kind of put our stamp very early on that we were going to win in this space by really two things. Technology creating efficiencies in a very antiquated market, allowing us to bring costs down. Second is through just absolutely legendary customer service.
That's awesome.
And that's happened with our commitment towards a very specific workforce.
So Cam, have you kind of seen that being the number one pain of people who do move, is that just lack of customer experience, that just like creepy dudes in the car like smoking what they shouldn't be smoking prior to moving you in? Like, is that kind of y'all's, you're different, your value prop is look, these are young studs, these are great people, happy to move you, happy to be involved in this process as well as the tech.
Yeah, I mean, it totally is. I mean, it's if Uber is like a 90% product, value prop, where like it's great to just be able to touch a button and get in a car and go where you want to go. It's like 90% product, 10% like service. Like you may not even know what your Uber driver looks like when you get out on the other side. But we're like the exact opposite. I think tech is really the maestro in the background, making sure everything happens with our company. But as far as the customer goes, it's like probably 10% of the experience. So 90% of the experience is just the quality of individuals that are coming to your home. And, we made the bet early that going after, college educated individuals that were aspiring to bigger and better things was kind of the right move to make in order to build a workforce that makes customers really feel safe and comfortable. And at the end of it, happy. Our mantra is every one of our moves should end with a high five.
Nice.
And
That's great.
deliver high five experiences, and it's like it represents the high five represents the youthful the youthful, energetic, ambitious, positive personality and demeanor of really what bellhops are and represent.
That's awesome, man. I really had a question for you about that. Well, going back a little bit, when you first started and you're starting to see success and you're pivoting, we had an episode back in Jenny Blake and her pivot book, and you're pivoting the business to where you see the need is. But how do you start scaling that? Like, what does that look like? What are the resources that you use? Like, when you see that success, you got to scale. And I think that's a place where a lot of people fail. What is it that you did to help do that?
Well, I think some of the best advice that I was given, it wasn't personal advice, it was from Paul Graham from Y Combinator, who said, you just have to do things that don't scale in the beginning.
Yes. That's good.
That's good.
It's like the Airbnb story is, they went door to door and like took pictures of the first 1,000 apartments that were listed on Airbnb. And at the time, like when time is your enemy, as a startup, founder, it's like something like that could just seem ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to do those things. You have to, in the beginning, just scrap and claw and do whatever it takes by any means necessary to win. And I think, our culture from the earliest of days was like this hustle culture. And we've seen, over the last 6 years, we've kind of transitioned from like this pure, just get it done through pure hustle, whatever it takes, the owner's grit. But today, we're running the business in a much more sophisticated and smart way, largely due to allowing technology to create big time efficiencies and, across the board, from operations to customer experience to every piece of our business.
I love that point you just made, because that is the hustle, right? Like those beginning stages, you can't necessarily scale the hustle. I never really thought about it in that way, man, but that makes all the sense in the world. And now you've moved on to, of course, you're still gritty and nasty and scrappy, right? Like any entrepreneur is going to be that way, but you're doing it in a more sophisticated, scalable manner. Can you talk a little bit about that? I want to go back to what Jonathan was just saying. That minimal viable product that you launched. You mentioned getting it ready on move-in day. Like, what did you guys focus on? Did you focus on hiring great people to help move, or did you focus on like making it look good?
The hustle in the early days was, in year one, where we had $1,000 in the company in the dorm movers, as it was called. It was all gearing up to three residential housing move-in days at Auburn. And we had been at the parent orientation sessions all summer, like hustling, handing out cards, talking to parents, the hustle on that side. But then when it came to it, what we were expecting to have to move in like 25 kids, in 3 days, we ended up having to move in over 300 kids.
Wow.
2 weeks leading up to that, we were like, how in the world are we going to do this? And so we went door to door to fraternity houses and student organizations. And we had to hire 80 college kids to be our bellhops in that first year. In the day of, we ran the whole thing on clipboards and walkie-talkies and crossing names off of lists, and it was a mess. But at the end of it, we got it done. And that's kind of how it is. Like, tech doesn't just happen immediately. Mm-hmm. It's like start a company, you're going to do a lot of things manually, and until your tech catches up and you're able to replace those manual things. Like, we did PayPal payments for the first 2 years, and that required my co-founder Steven sitting at a desk for like 7 hours a week, just working in spreadsheets and jobs with PayPal payments.
That's rough.
But yeah, it's even today. Tech is always going to. You're always going to allocate your tech resources towards the most pressing problems in your company, but there could be a million other problems that feel pressing, certainly, that just don't get prioritized. And so what you have to do, in the meantime is just roll up your sleeves and grit it out.
Yeah, I see that as a transition, I guess is the best word for it. You're working super hard, you're scrappy at the beginning, and then you just transition into working smarter and smarter and smarter.
Yeah, well, and you're getting the resources along the way to reallocate towards things that allow you to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Cam, so talk a little bit about, you mentioned there's always problems, right? Things do come up. You guys have launched and relaunched and have kind of pivoted in so many different ways. What are some of the tougher ways that you've grown and different stages of launch that you've seen, since 2011 that kind of are those things that, stuck out to you, but if you hadn't have done them, there's no way you'd be where you are today,
The last 7 years feels like my entire lifetime. It feels like 30. It's insane. And it's because you're just constantly forced. I think any startup, there are very few exceptions of startups that pick an idea that ends up being the idea and the strategy that you're going to use, and still be executing on like 10 years from now. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You can be the most intuitive person in the world, but you can't deal with the changes in technology, the changes in consumer behavior, changes in industries. And so what you're kind of forced to doing is really just being really good at adapting and making those decisions quickly. We started out as a dorm moving company, realized that was hyper seasonal and would never sustain a full-time business. Our first pivot was expanding our services out to non-students. And then we realized, oh my gosh, there's this massive gap in the mainstream moving market where, you had the whole industry that was based on like a negative customer experience, very inefficient, antiquated space that was just in desperate need of technology. So we started executing on that. So we built out a labor platform. We started serving do-it-yourselfers that were like loading U-Hauls. And then we realized look, if we're going to be if we're going to be a player in the moving space, we've got to start offering transportation. Yeah. We've got to take this whole thing on. Bellhops can be the most wonderful people in the world to interact with loading your U-Haul. But as a customer, if you're still having to go to U-Haul and pick up a truck and wait in line and drive the big clunky thing that's probably going to break down, that's, we're playing our part in making the loading and unloading experience awesome, but we're not making the whole experience awesome.
Yeah.
So we started offering full service. And so the way we did that in the beginning was we just added a button in our order flow and said, you just want us to do the whole thing. When customers, clicked that option, they paid extra, and we, show up with a truck. And the way we did it was we would just manually book U-Hauls through a corporate account and then connect the confirmation number to the order notes. The bellhops would actually go get an individual U-Haul, drive to the customer's home, do the job, and then take the truck back after every single job.
See, the hustle is still alive at that phase. Like, let's note that.
It doesn't end.
Yeah.
And we became a top 50 customer of U-Haul in like 30 days.
That's awesome.
I bet.
But then we were breaking all these like rules. Like, we got cease and desist from like every household goods commission in the country. We were like, okay, geez, this is bad. And so we paused that, but it proved as a positive test for us to realize like customers really want the full service piece. Next, our next option was we kind of doubled back down on labor to like really solve that piece and get that really buttoned up. And then we started launching our own fleet. So we were leasing our own trucks. Realized that, utilization is such a tough thing in moving where, if you do 11 moves in a week on a truck, you're profitable. But if you do, 10 moves in a week, you're massively unprofitable.
Huh.
And so our last kind of biggest, I guess, service expansion or pivot in terms of how we operate has been this first industry model where Bellhops today owns 0 trucks and has 0 leases on trucks. We don't do any of our trucking or transportation. We're partnering with professional carriers that have excess capacity in their 26-foot box trucks. These trucks are as our transportation partners. They're just showing up to our moves. Our bellhops meeting them there. We're doing all the customer action, all the loading, the unloading, and then at the end of the job, our partners just drive off back to their main job of whatever else they're doing in last mile delivery, and so we don't have to carry trucks on our balance sheet now.
And that's great. That's leveraging relationships. Why would you have that depreciating asset on the books if you had to?
It's totally enabled.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's been the single greatest move we've ever made in terms of growth, and because we're able to grow now, whereas every moving company out there is asset constrained in busy season, virtually unlimited access of or supply of trucks.
That's awesome.
And then in the off season, when most moving companies are have 2 of their 10 moving trucks moving, and 8 of them are sitting in a parking lot costing them money. Yeah, it's just, and the only way this is possible is through tech. Mm-hmm. And so tech ties it all together and is enabling these new models across industries that are just making things more efficient.
Well, and I want to focus on like the way that you did that is perfectly executed, and your size, the scale, that the magnitude that you did it at is a little bit higher than maybe some people listening. But I want to unpack that really quickly. You did not just say, guys, we're going to move to fleet, so let's buy 15 trucks, right? You tried that out with U-Haul and tested that out, and then it proved well, and you thought, well, there's another way other than buying trucks. Let's leverage relationships. The same could go for someone who is building a side gig, right? Like if you want to start something out, don't push all the chips in and take out a $16,000 loan to try something. Leverage the thing that someone else has, or find a partnership to find if the market is even there for that. Because Cam, like, had you bought 16 trucks and nobody said they wanted fleet, like, that's a terrible decision.
I mean, it's like the lesson that you just continue learning along the way. And it never gets easier to say, yeah, I'm just going to hustle this thing out. It'd be way easier just to stroke the check and buy the trucks and just go with your gut. Yeah. And that can get you into major trouble. You got to be willing you got to test everything before you roll anything. Especially once you start taking venture capital, there's got to be a reason to your rhyme, and there has to be a scientific method to how you make decisions in your business.
So Cam, I wanted to ask you, if you had to give your best tip, your number one tip to somebody who's in a full-time position and they're really they have a side hustle and they're really looking to take that on full-time, what would you tell them?
I mean, only it's like when when you're going to put your whole life, when you're going to derail your whole life because of your conviction in something. Only you know the answer to when you pull the trigger and make that move. And I don't think there's any advice that anyone can give you to help you make that decision better, because only you are going to get through the first 500, 600, 700 days of a startup. You're not going to have a lot of people on your side. Most of the people that you tell about your idea are either going to be highly skeptical or deep down jealous, and so it all kind of comes back to you as like negative feedback. And so you have to have this kind of ironclad resolve that you're making the right decision and you're going to succeed at all odds. And so my advice is, if you have that feeling in your gut and you know deep down that it's the right move to make, you got to do it.
Love
That's
it.
awesome,
More mental than it is anything else. Just dive in and do the thing. Convict yourself. I love that. Cam, those of our audience who are out there listening and tuning in and like just eating what you're saying, loving what you're saying, breathing it, where can they find you guys and Bellhops?
So you can go to our website, which is getbellhops.com. Google Bellhops. We're all over now in 15 cities as a full service, completely new breed of moving company. That's just, it's really shaking up an old tired space. And so you can book online in about 5 minutes, or you can call in and have one of our concierge members walk you through it. Also check us out on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram.
That's Rockstar, man. Cam, you could have been a lot other places, especially in Chattanooga, man. Cool city. A lot of other places than here chatting with us today. And dude, and when I say we, I mean not just Jonathan and I, but this entire community. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much.
One time I gotta show it to, and if you love hip-hop, I'm about to fuck with you.
All right, I gotta say, for someone who was out late the night prior during a company Christmas party, Cam just rocked that interview.
He did.
And that business is rocking and rolling right now. It fires me up to hear him.
It's funny because, I mean, he's a young guy.
Yeah, I think he's like your age, 28, 29, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. And so just to see somebody take an idea like we talked about before and not straight out of college, straight in college, and just take that idea and run with it.
Yeah.
And really not worry about what the future's going to look like, but just running with what it is right now and making it work as best as possible.
Let's talk about that. Let's unpack that a little bit. Cam mentioned that the hustle is doing things that you cannot scale. And I could not agree with that more. Jonathan, right now you and I are making a decent little push here locally on some like Facebook advertising. Mm-hmm. We couldn't scale that necessarily just you and I locally, right? Like we would have to have people delegate
only
people
so much
to
we can
create
do.
copy, to create images, to run through the analytics, to work on the sales funnel. Like you have to build that out eventually.
Right.
And just as Cam mentioned, the people who founded Airbnb, those two guys, the two founders, they took photos of the first 1,000 apartments that were featured on their website.
They went and knocked on doors.
Yeah, there's no way that they could scale. Even today, if they hired like photographers across the world, there's no way they could ever have someone take photos of all. It's just not scalable.
No.
But by doing that, they generated revenue off of it in the long game, right? 2, created attention. People were like, oh, look at all these beautiful apartments. Like, this is cool.
Oh, yeah.
I trust these people a lot more now. 3, created a splash in the industry. Like, no one had ever really seen or heard of this style before, right? And then 4, created traction, okay? So they got traction from all 3 of those other things. So the key here is, like, what you're doing right now, if you're concerned that it's not scalable or if you're worried about the scalability of it, I'm going to tell you to shut up. Like, stop worrying about that.
Shut your mouth.
I would tell you about it too, Jonathan, because like oftentimes you and I are like, dude, this sucks. Like, we can't keep this up. We can't keep this up. How will we find a better way? We had to find a better way. Are we at that stage yet of finding a better way? I don't think so.
No.
So like, recognize where you are in your business. Now,
get good at where you are right now in your business.
Yes, that's a really great point. Get great at where you are today in your business, and then utilize that revenue to create a tool, to found a relationship, to hire someone else, to outsource something, to move on to the next stage, in which there will be a hustle in that next stage, and it will identify itself very, very early.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I wanted to bring something up. I was just thinking about this. This isn't really anything Will and I talked about. You see those things on Facebook and different things like that. All the big companies, like you have Airbnb and you have like Amazon and or maybe not Amazon, but what's that other big company?
Walmart.
No, not Walmart. The like online company that's it's not even in the United States, I don't think. But anyway, all these huge companies that pretty much don't have inventory. Like they don't have like assets that they have to track, like depreciating assets. And I think it's really cool.
Uber.
Yeah, Uber, that's one for sure. It was Alibaba. That was the company I was
Alibaba.
thinking. Yeah,
multi-billion-dollar
exactly.
company.
And I think it's really interesting that not that anyone has to do this or anything like that, but very interesting that Cam kind of pivoted the company to not having physical trucks, right?
Yeah, and he mentioned that like the hustle's never the easiest option. It is always the more difficult option. Okay,
For sure.
Keep that in mind. But had Cam went and he mentioned he wanted to go into fleet, he didn't just immediately go out and spend $100,000 of their investor-backed dollars to purchase fleet. Yeah, he tested it out and he had his bellhops go test it out and run tests and see if people enjoyed that. They did. So next step, he could have gone and bought fleet. Still, don't want depreciating assets and liabilities on the book. So what does he do? He creates a great partnership with someone who has fleet. Makes all the sense in the world.
You can't underestimate the partnership, like especially in that like that. I mean, just
get
partner
creative.
with somebody.
Get creative.
You
on
really
that.
do have to get creative.
You do, and some of the best businesses in the world have created very creative partnerships, like beneficial to both parties. So think about that. But this was an awesome interview. When we talked about starting a podcast, Jonathan, like over a year ago, I was thinking Cam Duty.
Yeah, he's been.
He's totally been on my radar, and I'm not somebody who wants a cold introduction to anyone. But granted, a lot of people who come to us or who I reached out to in the early days, like I'm just emailing Cole, like, hey, dude, we got a show. Like I'd love to feature you on it,
Yeah.
But I never did that with Cam. And oddly enough, I think we had like 2 or 3 different guests who were like, "Hey, you got to meet Cam Duty. You got to meet Cam Duty." So finally, the third one said that, and I'm like, "Okay, fine, let's do it." And I think we should have Cam on. So, Cam, if you're out there listening, man, thank you so much for pouring into our community.
Oh, for sure.
And those of you who are listening, who have a side hustle, who are concerned about scaling today, don't be. Jonathan and I are here to tell you, like, do what you got to do today. Get it out of the way. Do something that cannot scale. That is the hustle.
Yeah, for sure. Do what you can right now. Do it as best and as hard as you can. And as you progress, you'll be able to work smarter and less harder.
That's a good thing. The 4-hour work week, right? There you go.
Man,
Any final words, man, before we tune out on this episode 20? By the way, congrats on getting out of your teens, Jonathan. I'm really proud of you.
Bro, I will say, just get out there and get after it like I always do. And I think this is a great episode for just to explain that, just getting after it, getting the job done. And then like Jenny Blake says, just pivoting as your industry does and what your customers are showing you. So just get out there and get after it and make it happen as best as you can right now.
Let me also say this one last thing. If you haven't liked our Facebook page yet,
please do.
Please do. Jonathan and I are going live pretty often these days, or you can subscribe to us on YouTube at Millennovator. We will see you guys on episode 21. Ooh, this is a good one. See you guys then. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to call your mother and tell that woman that you love her. And if you love the show almost as much, subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a sweet review. We're definitely not ashamed to blush. Now, go forward and implement what you learned from today's episode into your business. We cannot wait to personally hear your story of success and replicate it 1,000 times over.
Give me the mic, not down, blow right down. I'm trying to sit it not down, blow right down. You trying to get it not down, blow right down. And if you standing in line when you gon' get knocked down.
So I'm going to have to go to PJ Superstore later to get the stuff for the Secret Santa.
Last minute is crap, dude.
Well,
We're having that today.
I know.
And you've known about it for like 3 weeks.
I don't know if I should get something funny, stupid.
Well, don't tell me.
or
I'm a part
serious.
of the
I
Secret Santa.
know. Well, it's hard for me to get something stupid for golf. 'cause
Okay,
it's
do you
like
think I got super
wasting
serious?
money. You're the wild card. I'm not really sure.
Seriously?
I think you probably got something serious.
Oh, maybe so.
I
At least I wrapped it. There's
I
like
don't-
3 boxes here at our office that
ideally you'd want to get something.
literally are boxes.
Yeah. Oh, I did see that earlier.
Yeah, that was me.
Ideally, you'd want to get something like stupid, but can still be used. Like
Like
not
a tacky golf Christmas sweater.
Yeah, like not a poo-poo putter. Like that's just
Dude, Haley got one of those for a Dirty Santa with our Bible study.
who got like did somebody like were they like fired up about it?
I don't remember who got it. She had this like goofy like selfie like video camera thing too, so you can like lay in bed and watch videos on your phone.
Haley
Casey
told me
Neistat
about
YouTubes.
She was like fired up about that gift. She was so stoked that she
It was,
got that.
I mean, it was pretty. Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was a pretty good gift.
That's tight.
We play Dirty Santa like on Thanksgiving with my mom's side every year, and my sister always gets like the crap gift, and she gets so pissed.
Oh, I bet.
She always gets the crap gift, and the ultimate troll. Like my uncle is like the ultimate troll when it comes to that. And
That's so funny.
yeah, and he literally got like this little like glass mason jar, like tiny, like the size of my thumb, right? And it has sand in it. This was 3 years ago, and it says beachfront property. You know, like one of those like dollar
That's
things.
so
And
funny.
She got it's like a $30, like
No
Dirty
way.
Santa, and he gave that.
That's hilarious.